So, for our purposes, we're going to focus this lecture specifically on NDEs or near-death experiences. So to begin with, it's going to be worth thinking about what exactly are NDEs. So one definition here that might be useful, near-death experiences are experiences of persons who were or perceived themselves to be close to death. Indeed, many such persons met the criteria for clinical death. While in this state, they undergo remarkable experiences, often taken to be experiences of the world that awaits them after death. Okay, so near-death experiences are things that happen to you when you're close to death, and the idea that people have is often they have these kind of weird and unexplainable experiences, and those are going to be things that they think are in fact experiences of the afterlife, or at least evidence of the afterlife. So beyond this characterization that we see in this definition, there's actually kind of not very much of an agreed upon definition about what a near-death experience has to be like in order to count as a near-death experience, what you actually have to experience for it to count. But this seems like a good enough definition for us for our purposes. So in the past, previous arguments for the existence of an afterlife based on direct evidence have relied on things like mediums, so people who claim kind of clairvoyance and or some kind of extrasensory perception, and this idea of being able to speak with the dead. So um, this is something that was used as evidence for the existence of life after death, because if somebody can reliably talk to somebody who's dead, then there must be some kind of life after death. Other kinds of arguments are based on reincarnation. So if we find somebody who exists now, who is, we think is good evidence that this is somebody who's a reincarnation of somebody who lived previously, then both of these are going to be pretty good evidence of the existence of life after death, because if they're true, then they confirm the hypothesis that there is some afterlife. But both of these are pretty dubious, forms of evidence, because there's really strong potential for perverse motives here. So especially with mediums, it seems like um, there's a really strong financial incentive to just make stuff up, and so um, there's going to be a pretty big kind of asterisk next to a lot of stories that mediums want to tell. Same with reincarnation. However, it seems like near-death experiences don't really suffer from these same kinds of counter-arguments, because there's less kind of likelihood of perverse motives. So if you genuinely come near to death and then experience something, there's not much that you gain from lying about that. So we're going to assume, at least for our purposes, that most people who report near-death experiences at least think that they're telling the truth. And it's going to be important to see why we kind of make that qualification in a little bit.